Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in the frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown and you lose it?
Where you been?
Drunk. Wendy. Darling. Light of my life.
What's your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and die.
Like I said, they're not as sexy as they used to be, but they're still just as good. But they're not like the youth audience isn't like, oh, I can't wait to see that Western movie with Kurt Russell. You know what I mean? The Zoomers. Right? Unless they're like, I like Quentin Tarantino. I want to see that movie because of that or whatever. But the passing, they're not like, that's the new hit thing. I saw a thing on TikTok about this Western movie, man. And it's,
funny enough, though, my mom sent me a reel, which is the graveyard and the bastard TikTok. She sent me a reel of Reservoir Dogs, and it was like, a fact that was like, did you know that the set dressing in the scene between like Mr. Orange and Mr. Pink when they're talking, and those bottles in the back, those bottles are the colors and the grouping of the rat and of Mr. Orange, and like it's all them together. And it's
didn't even know that.
Bottles,
I didn't even know that.
Look into the bottles, and that's that's the set dressing, and that's Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino, you know what he is? He's better than Kubrick. Kubrick thought of every little detail, and then Quentin Tarantino came through. Quentin Tarantino went like this. He went, Kubrick, you're out of here, Kubrick.
Get out of here. You're dead.
Get out of here, Kubrick. You know what he did? Kubrick came up. Kubrick gave me a little shove, and I went, get out of here, Kubrick.
He saw Pulp Fiction and had a brain aneurysm.
Kubrick was on his deathbed, and he was looking at the monolith, and it was Pulp Fiction's trailer. And he
That's
was
tough.
Like, oh my god!
It's going to be interesting to talk about Tarantino's legacy, especially because it's the whole like 10 movies and done thing. Once it's all said and done. Anyway, so this is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast. You might be wondering what we're talking about today. We're talking about Stanley Kubrick's film Eyes Wide Shut.
I know, and it's really great. And the Quentin Tarantino commentary on Eyes Wide Shut is amazing.
So like in this scene, man, this guy right here, Tom Cruise really was fucking Nicole Kidman, man.
Like, man. And this scene right here, this is where the eyes got really wide, and that my friends, that was the N-word. That's what he says. That's how he.
So the movie specifically, I mean, you clicked on the thing. We're talking about his directorial debut, Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs, which is still a name I'm
don't know how to spell.
honey, I'll never be able to spell the films of Reservoir Dogs.
I was typing it. I was typing it into. I'm a fucking idiot. And I was typing it into Letterboxd, and I was like, "Why isn't it showing up?" And it was just because I was spelling it wrong. Because I'm a moron.
I had to type in Quentin Tarantino, and I spelled that wrong. But it got me there.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, it got me there.
Anyway.
Oh man.
Old Quentin. Quentin.
You know what? You said earlier that your brother has not seen this film. This was his first time viewing it.
Correct.
And I get that. I totally get that. Like your brother wasn't alive when Sundance existed, and
I mean this movie came out when we were fucking little babies, I was
like 4 or something on this.
You weren't. You wish you were 4.
I don't know. It came out in 92.
Nah, yeah, you were 3. Yeah, 92.
Did it come out in? I thought it was 92 and then a 93 theatrical release.
Oh, that could be. That could be Sundance 92 and then like wide release 93.
93. But
anyway,
anyhow.
If you were there, I want to know just off the top of the gate. I know some of our listeners, some of them are some older folks, and I appreciate that. And sorry for calling you older folks, but we're around even earlier times than this.
We're old now too, so.
But yeah, this movie is, it's over 30 years old at this point. But I want to know, what was it like when this movie came out? I want to know the initial reaction to be like, this movie kind of exploded on the scene, kind of made a name, started making a name for Quentin Tarantino, and then obviously Pulp Fiction came a few years later and blew the whole fucking doors off the whole thing. But
I mean,
so-
arguably that was what
Come to the Reddit.
That's what gave the Miramax Winehouse company.
Oh, yeah.
I mean that was its leverage, and that was its like.
So basically, you can blame
poster
Quentin
child.
Tarantino for Harvey Weinstein.
I haven't looked into Quentin Tarantino, but I can only imagine that guy has eaten feet. Like,
Oh,
I
he's
do
definitely
not-
eating them, but that's okay.
I do not.
He does it with
Well, I don't know
consent. He
about
just
how much
asks
consent,
people
no.
to send him feet. They do.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe he gets
He's like,
yeah, just
only
separate
with what
feet.
you want, though. But yeah, send them to me, please.
Yeah, right. I'll take no discrimination.
Anyway, so for those of you listening that have
sure.
not seen it in a while, maybe it's foggy, you kind of know the gist.
Let-
Jordan here. We've been away on vacation, so we're it's probably gonna be we're gonna have to fumble through this one today. Just
okay.
Not even the
We'll get
synopsis,
it up.
just in general. We gotta loosen the hinges.
Well, we're a little like jet lagged. We've both been on planes in the last like 7 days. So
Yeah, I'm sore.
I
I got a tan. I've never had a tan in my life.
I know, dude. I'm surprised you don't get like the Irish burn.
I
or
do,
whatever. You're, like,
but I
you're a potato
liberally,
man.
I normally always burn, but this is the most sunscreen I've ever applied in my life, thanks to my sister.
Oh, it was, yeah, dude. Kylie was out there all day, every day.
She's
with
like,
that.
make
She
sure
was-
to reapply, and I was like, yeah, all
she
right,
had,
dude.
Like, she's like 36. I don't know where she got all that sunscreen from.
I
but
know.
Anyways, God bless. We love you,
Yeah.
Kylie, and you.
I wish she
saved us
listened.
all,
I wish she
and
listened to this.
I know, me too.
She's
I'm
a
sorry, I know, I
Patreon though, so
apologize.
thanks.
Yeah, really though. Yeah, that's all that matters. We got your money, but we heart you, and I'm sorry you had to put up with our shenanigans, but you know what? You're fantastic. It's not about you though. It's about everyone out in podcast land. So listen to this synopsis that I did not write,
Let's hear it.
but I'm gonna read because it was the funniest one to me. Reservoir Dogs, 92. Quentin Tarantino. 6 men are hired to rob a local jewelry store for a recent diamond shipment. At first, it goes smoothly, but then the alarm gets tripped. Several employees and customers die in the panic, and the cops show up within moments, which results in a massive, bloody shootout with the 6 robbers. Then, during the escape from the botched heist, 2 of the robbers are killed, and the 4 that survive begin to suspect a rat among them. That makes this movie sound like it is fucking like Heat, or like that synopsis makes this movie sound like you were gonna watch
It's
one of the most
interesting
bloody,
because that
most,
is
like you're gonna watch like a heist movie.
it's fairly violent, but
And
it's like the heist takes
there's-
place in like
there's-
small 90% of the movie because the genre still was 24-hour movies, and
Right.
so not counting flashbacks, this basically all takes place in the aftermath of the heist
Yeah.
at the warehouse with flashbacks to the heist and before the planning of the heist and everything. But I know it does make it sound like, I don't know, this is like the first forte into Quentin Tarantino's like unconventional story structure that's like
Well,
really
I
kind of
think-
jumping all around, but it feels more natural here than a lot of like it feels like just normal here. But
I think it is this didn't do anything like crazy inventive. I just think it was strong, and it was
it's
executed.
this is
really
really
well.
simple compared to a
Right.
lot of his movies.
Right, and
Like-
then compared to like a Nolan or something, or
Oh,
you know
yeah.
somebody who's trying to break your brain, or like really trying to like layer it and like come
Yeah.
back on itself. you
Yeah,
know?
this is just
And
the
so-
way, because the way it cuts, it like the flashbacks are so perfectly paced in this movie, for my opinion. Like when they come, like we'll talk later about probably one of my favorite parts. My favorite cut in this movie is like got to be one of my favorite cuts ever. For some reason, it just always hits. But
Yeah,
is that
dude,
it?
okay,
That's it, right? For the
that
synopsis,
was it,
I don't
that
want
was
to
it.
cut you.
I was just loving how that
Yeah.
synopsis is like not the movie. What they just explained is 1% of the movie.
the setup,
and then 99% of the movie is inside the warehouse,
Yeah.
and the guys talking.
15% is I'm fucking dying here. I'm
fucking
dying.
Yeah, dude. It's like, I mean, and you know, Tim Roth. Like this is so funny because this is where Tim Roth and Steve Buscemi kind of get their foothold, and
Yeah.
this is like where they're really like breaking.
You
into
want
the
to
scene. Like,
you
they-
want to
they've been in
know
stuff, but-
you want to know my brother Gat, who watched it right for the first time. You want to know what his when the first thing he said to me while we were watching it during the diner scene right at the beginning. He said,
Right.
that guy on the left looks like the villain from the 2008 Incredible Hulk movie with Edward Norton. And I'm like, it is. It's Tim Roth.
It's Tim Roth, yeah.
And he's like,
It's Tim Roth.
that's where I know him from.
If you really want to know him, he will lie to you, or you will try to lie to him. Or something, right?
Yeah, what
You
is
mean
my
that show Lie to
favorite
Me?
Tim Roth? Because he's so good in Hateful Eight, but I really like him in Funny Games, the remake.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he's good. God, yeah, Tim Roth is
I like
like
Tim Roth.
a guy I enjoy, but I don't really. I mean, Pulp Fiction, I think, is probably my favorite.
Yeah, he's Honey Bunny or whatever.
Right.
But Steve, honestly, the star of the show, like Tim Roth is good. But Harvey Keitel crushes. But Steve, I forget what chops Steve Buscemi has, man. Like he's such a known as like a comedic actor a lot of the time, and I'm like, he fucking runs away. He steals like most of the scenes. Like I mean, I don't know. This ensemble cast is so good because Michael Madsen, when he shows up, when Mr. Blonde shows up, it's just like he fucking is just a presence, dude. He's a presence.
When I was younger, so I haven't seen this movie in decade plus. It's been a really long time.
It's been a while.
But it was a movie that I watched I've probably seen this movie collectively now 10 times.
Yeah, that's
So
same deal. I was, I overdid it back in the day, so I haven't watched it in probably 8 or 9 years.
Right. And so I haven't watched this for a hot ass minute. And Michael Madsen was a character I didn't really care about when I was younger. And now watching it again, I'm like, damn. He might be one of the greatest villains also.
He's so
so
I didn't
cool.
realize how in depth his character was because there's only 3 flashbacks, and it's like Mr. White, Mr. Orange, and then Mr. Blonde, and it's like, and so you really do get kind of, even though it's that one scene after he got out of prison and everything, but there's so much more context to his character and his relationship. So later when Mr. Orange is like, he was going to fucking do the whole thing, and Nice Guy Eddie's just does not buy it right away. Like, you as the audience are like, oh, no way. He's not. They're old friends, man. He's not going to buy that.
Right. Right. And I love that when Chris Penn's Chris Penn is just I don't think he acts. I think he just shows up and he talks. Cause that's,
it was great.
That's his presence. It's
I know.
I don't know, that's just, he's classic. So
there's so much of this movie that's just ingrained in my head, just like sound bites, and it's just like him screaming like, "You quit pointing that gun at my dad!"
yeah. Right. I love that, and I love the got to be professionals. It's
I know.
I don't know, man. I feel.
What was your going back then? We both agree we saw this in our teen years, and we were both like, "This is fucking cool." Like most Tarantino, because did you see Pulp Fiction first and then this, and right? Same, yeah. So we have pretty much a similar. I feel like a lot of people our age, especially that are into movies, had that experience. So they're like, "Oh shit," and then went back and watched that. But, So watching it now, how was the passage of time done it for you? I know a lot of the racism and language probably didn't age. I forgot how unflinching it was. Like I forgot how much it was just like, God damn.
No, it's kind of funny. It's like I don't know why, but and over the years, just even outside of I don't even want to know what social justice been, and just the larger, societal norms of using the N-word and it's racial discussion in cinema has changed. It's totally bent.
Tarantino's always on the hot box too for that kind of thing, he was
course.
a lot with Django, and fucking Spike Lee, who we talked about a couple weeks ago, was boycotting his movies ever since Hateful Eight and everything.
Right, of course, and that's the whole thing. I'm like, and I was today with a coworker who's never seen this and doesn't really. I don't think they've seen. No, I think they saw Django or something. They don't really know Quentin Tarantino very well, and I was explaining that he's like the edgelord Steven Spielberg. He makes these he makes these movies that are fucking good. They're polished. And he knows what he's doing.
And they're uniquely his. They're uniquely his. I'm always excited for a Tarantino movie.
But he's always trying to I'm gonna put, and it's one of those things where he hides behind the what is that, like, creative shield, or he's just some sort of like he's like I'm writing characters, so I get to step aside, and that's what a character would say. Where you're like you can't separate yourself from what you're creating when it's like you're like just like completely saying the N-word for no reason, no constructive reason for this character needs to say it. It's like I'm trying to think, if I look at where like Scorsese, he comes through and he'll have racist characters in his movies because that's rampant, but they're racist in like constructive ways. It's kind of weird, you know. Usually if he has a racist character, it's like somebody who owns territory, and then there's another race that owns territory, and then they're derogatory towards them, and that's kind of it's structured in the universe that he's created. Where Quentin Tarantino goes, I'm gonna write a character who can say the N-word, and I don't know, it kind of, watching this again, I'm like, oh man, a lot of his really, really strong, tight writing gets overshadowed by him just kind of being like a little edgy and like
I think this
like a weasel. I don't know.
I think this movie kind of suffers from it the most.
Right,
because you're right. Because I mean, I do agree. I don't think this movie's racist. I think the characters are racist, but it's like a lot of the times they're talking and it's natural. It's not doing anything to further the story. It's doing things to further the characters.
It's sensationalized, though. Honestly,
it sort of is. Well, everything about his movies are sensationalized, and that's that's his whole shtick.
That's why I compare him to Spielberg.
Yeah,
it's like everything he does
that's
is
his
like
whole shtick,
sensationalized, but in like an edgy way.
I don't know. I get it. I mean, like Scorsese. I mean, I don't know. Everyone's super racist in fucking Goodfellas. Like, I do feel like in this one more than others, because it's like, if you think about all the characters in this one, the one black character, the one cop that was like the handler of, Mr. Orange or Freddy or whatever the fuck he's Mr. Orange, but he's like the one common sense kind of. He's like not fleshed out, but he's like the one common sense kind of guy and everything. But it's I don't know. It's interesting. It's just like, what are you trying to say with all, like, every conversation is like trying to be into real life, and they're just dropping like fucking all these racial slurs to every other race too. To like Hispanic people and everything, but it's are you trying to be like, because Mr. Orange doesn't do it unless he's trying to fit in and be undercover, and so are you trying to be like all criminals are just scum from the core? Like, what's the point of this other than to just be flavor? And it does feel more like flavor. Like, it is good.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's good and it's well acted, but I also am asking at the end of the day, like, could you have replaced this with anything else? And you definitely could have.
100%. That's where it's like,
that's my only qualm as well. That I'm like,
every interview, Quentin Tarantino defends himself.
Yeah,
and it's always the I have a black friend defense.
Pretty much,
it's
like
always like
Samuel Jackson.
Like, I had black people read my shit and they love it. It's like,
Samuel Jackson's like, I'm not racist, so I'm not racist, and I don't think Quentin Tarantino's racist, because it is hard. I don't think he is, but I do think is kind of like, I have permission, and so he's like, what I mean? Especially on his older movies. I do think, like, obviously Django is like one that it makes sense for more. So that's the one that's like, it's about that. But this one, it's like, I don't know. I get it. But I also am like, I don't know. As a writer too, I'm like,
we don't have time to get into all of the nuance.
Well, it's a big part of the controversy, but it's funny that like it wasn't. I feel like it wasn't as big of a deal back then because people were just shittier and racist back then. It's just par for the core, which is too bad.
I think it was. I think what we were discussing earlier off mic is it was like the new resurgent of cinema where like smaller people were taking it back. Like Quentin Tarantino, he didn't have a studio to back him that was like really critiquing what he says. So he kind of like it was this breath of fresh air,
raw,
where it was raw. Yeah, so it's like creativity could be unfiltered, and like it was kind of like, all right, anyone can create anything, and it was like I think Quentin Tarantino sees it because all the interviews I've seen, I think he sees himself as being like a social justice warrior and like equalizing it, and it's like, well, no, but you know what? His movies are strong, and they are like, it's funny because I love. It's like the writing will be like really good, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like, it's edited and structured, and it's like really cool. And then he'll do that. He'll like throw in a joke that I'm like, it'll be a joke where I'm like, oh, it just kind of jarred me. And when I was younger, I was more like, infatuated with the set design and the characters and like how simple they were, and then how violent it was. I mean, that blood is so beautiful.
Yeah, this
and, like,
the
I
blood,
just- I-
the
you know, I
blood. This
love-
is some of the best fake blood, though.
some of the best, dude. Some of the best
It
blood
looks so good.
ever, dude. Some of the like the
the
practical
color
effects,
grade and whatever like really makes it look good too. When he's just Tim Roth's laying in the
Dude.
pool of blood, it's so good.
dude. It's yeah.
Well,
it's
this
really,
as
really
like
good.
you could see how this would be so impressionable to a couple young 14, 15-year-olds or whatever.
Yeah.
Because this movie made me feel like, oh, anyone can do this, and it's fucking cool. Like, it's cops and robbers in fucking black suit and tie, just cussing and smoking and covered in blood. Like, it is cool, but it's like, I see the edgelordy thing you're saying. But it's like, I don't know. Coming out the gate with this is a directorial debut. I often forget this is his first, he hasn't directed anything. And I'm like, man, this is tight as fuck. Like,
right. And for like, it really is. It's one of those divine interventions where he shot like a little test, and then that little test got around, and like people were giving him financing here and there, but then the script was like really strong, really concise, and it was really simple. And Harvey Keitel, like he was the whole reason this movie got made, is because he came on and he was like, I'll do it for nothing and I'll help finance. And so that really
I
is,
didn't notice until this time around that he's a producer, and I was like, oh shit, yeah,
Uh-huh.
like that makes sense, because
Yep,
he's the
same.
big
Yeah,
name that
for-
needed to push it, right? Because Quentin Tarantino had made sort of a name for himself because screenplays were starting to be. This is the only era screenplays were taken seriously. It's like in the late '80s, early '90s when people
Really?
are like, studios are like, yeah, give me your screenplays, bud. And so wrote the screenplay for True Romance, right, with Christian Slater and Gary Oldman and that. And so that gave him a little bit of clout to then be like, all right, why don't you direct a movie and see what you
and
got? And
that
this
was
is this is 100 times better than True Romance.
I wonder. I've never looked in. Well, yeah.
I mean, True
I've
Romance
never looked
is fine, but
into Quentin Tarantino's. Dude, he's written 40. Oh, excuse me, he's written 21. Oh no.
has he? Some of those have got to be because there was a
No,
Reservoir Dogs
40.
video game. You know what I mean? It's probably like characters based on.
Yeah.
Did you ever? Did you ever play that video game? Did you know there was a Reservoir Dogs video
No.
game?
I do. Yeah, I remember it. Yeah,
it was
I remember
terrible,
playing it.
but yeah.
Oh, it's awful. It was like lower than Driver. Like
It
Driver
was. It was
It was
like.
like worse than Driver. No, that was the one. So what's cool is from Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
The reason that I'm trying to find this stupid idiot's name. Okay.
Robert Rodriguez.
No, I know. I love Robert Rodriguez, but no, it was. Oh my god. Anyways, the effects dude on there.
yeah.
He helped produce. He did all the effects for free. On the stipulation that Quentin Tarantino would write From Dusk Till Dawn for him.
Oh.
He's like write me like a horror movie.
Yeah, that I
Or,
can
you know,
go
whatever.
crazy with the effects on.
Right, and then he did the effects on that.
Good.
And so
Well, the effects in this, this movie it punches hard, dude. Like when they're
looks
whipping the
good.
cop's ass, and then obviously,
Yeah.
they cut his ear off, and in the final cut, it like pans away. But they have the footage of him cutting the ear off. I've seen that in the DVD special
there's-
features.
Oh, there's a deleted scene. I don't.
There's
I mean,
like several
yeah.
shots of the prosthetic ear getting cut off, and
Oh,
it looks
yeah,
pretty
okay, you're
fucking
right.
good.
You're right. I have seen that because when you can really see the hole, and
Yeah.
it's kind of you can see the makeup over the ear.
Yeah.
But it looks cool. It looks.
It
it's
looks pretty good, but
practice,
it's
dude.
still obvious, you
So
know, that
good.
you can
Well,
definitely
it's still
tell,
obvious,
but
it's
it's
such
like
good- it's such
raised
good
a little bit, just his ears squished under there, but.
Right,
But I'm
right,
glad
right.
they went with like the pan away because that was like an interesting.
And the pan away is such a like that is what God. I mean, I don't know, dude. Every fucking 16-year-old film nerd has gone on about Quentin Tarantino. We weren't saved from that. Like we fell in love with him. He really does give like an up and comer hope. And so, anyways, Quentin Tarantino, he does a lot of homages, and he is like, film worldly or film. He has good film knowledge.
Yeah.
And that pan is so old school from the violence. Like that's such a like 30s 40s shot is to like go away from the violence and
Yeah.
just have like audio and like I don't know, then cut back to it. And those little details are what like add up to my
It
appreciation.
is because, yeah, like you said, the synopsis makes this sound like some crazy violent thing. And there is the violence, like all the cops getting shot in the car and the cop getting shot in the seat. Like, but it's all pretty fast, though.
Him getting tied up. The
Yeah.
violence for me.
It's not like
watching this
gore,
now,
yeah.
Is him being tied up, punched, and then when he gets his ear cut off and the gasoline thrown on him
On the ear.
Oh my god, that makes me cringe, dude. Yeah, just that gas, like, and just getting covered in gasoline would hurt. It would like,
Dude, that scene
with lacerations, it would burn. And I love that how, dude, that's what's so great is Michael Madsen, like, he's like, does it sting? Like he loves it. He's a fucking sadist.
I was on the edge of my fucking seat. I've seen this movie like 10 times, but I'm on the edge of my seat in that scene where he's just like, no, please don't. He's like, that fire's scary, huh? And he's just screaming for his life, and I know what's coming, and I'm still just like, oh, and then he just gets like shot like a ton of times.
That's such a good shot too, where he gets shot.
That's a perfect cut.
And then it pans over to him falling. Oh my god!
And he's no
so Western, dude.
where he's just there and he's still like,
yeah.
And then it cuts. It's a perfect cut too. It's like Mr. Orange, like boom, like it's a perfect like release valve. No,
tell me
the
cut.
cut.
I want to know it.
The cut when Steve Buscemi shows off and him and Harvey Keitel are smoking in the bathroom, and he's like, "Well, how'd you get out of there?" And he's like, "How do you think? I blasted my way out." And then it's like, whoa! And he's like, cuts to him running and the gunshots.
Dude, did you know that scene has the Wilhelm scream?
Yeah, I did. I forgot about it, and then I heard it when he shoves the guy. It's like, ah! Like, of course.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, come on, guys. We gotta put that in one of our movies, didn't you?
We really ought to, but it's so cool because it's like he gets around the corner, he's like getting the car, and then he just like fucking just unloads like total crazy madman.
Yeah, the like the action in this it's like really strong action, and that's what Quentin Tarantino later becomes really known for, and really like you know it's like a Quentin Tarantino squib, like you like Hateful Eight and Django Unchained, like that is like it's on the realms of like parody of how explosive the gunshot.
I watched Hateful Eight not that long ago, but I want to watch it again because it's so similar to Reservoir Dogs and like its overall setup and style.
And like a what is that, like bottle movie or just like
it's kind of like I guess bottle movie, bottle episode, you know. Right. But like one thing this movie does that when I was younger, I didn't really. I thought it was kind of the most boring part, but now I'm like pretty enthralled with it in the last couple of viewings. Is Mr. Orange's flashback because it feels so long, and I'm like, get back to the fucking the cops and robbers shit. But he's got the whole bit about him learning the scene, and it slowly deconstructs down.
That was edited really well.
To him being like telling this fiction, and it's something you can only do in cinema, and that's why it's so fucking great because it's like it cuts down. He's learning the story. He's getting better at the story. He's getting even better at it. Then he's telling it at the bar, and then he's there. And you, as the audience, know this isn't real, but you're seeing it. You're seeing the cops. You're seeing the German Shepherd.
The stakes are so real because
he made
it's a
it
contradiction.
Yeah.
He has to make real. Yeah.
And even like you got to know if it has a hand dryer, and he like incorporates it into his story. And
I love that too because the hand dryer, like, it adds tension to the scene that's not even real.
You know it's not real.
Yeah.
But we talked about this a little bit with one of the movies we covered recently. I forget what it was, but it's just like, what is real? We were talking about it with Asteroid City, where it's like, where's the nothing we're watching is real. It's
real.
A movie.
The stakes are so high.
But this is like a scene. I don't know. It's just something that can only exist in cinema, and I fucking love those little moments. It's like almost a fourth wall kind of thing.
Go listen to our Asteroid City on Patreon if you want to be a sweet little Patreon baby. And
that was a fun one.
Over there. But we would love to. Yeah, we chat about it.
Hateful Eight does the same thing with his story about you don't know if he's lying or not. About his son and everything. Trying to goad him and get him to... He's like, you seeing pictures now, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wish he did more stuff like that. That movie's really good. That's like that might be my favorite.
Well, we were talking about it. Oh, no, that's right. Yeah, so I was talking to my coworker, and like, dude, it's like... It's funny because I've liked Quentin Tarantino for so long, and I still, like... I guess it's just, like, separate the art from the artist, you know?
I think he's fine. He's just kind of a douchebag. He's kind of a douchebag, but
he's very punchable. But
he's his movies are great, and he's a great artist. And I don't think he's like a criminal like so many. Sadly, so many artists I do like that are just like, oh no, he's a sex pest.
Sure, yeah.
But
nothing's come out so far.
Yeah, we'll see. But it's just like, I don't know. He's just pretentious as fuck with the way he talks and stuff. Like he won't watch Return of the Living Dead, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, just because he hates Dan O'Bannon. It's like, fuck you.
No, that's the biggest thing. It's like his whole like he'll do listicles and he's very like
snobby.
He's so he's so
But
snobby and pretentious.
The dude knows how to write and make a fucking movie. Like he knows what he's doing.
But I think it's his. I think his editor too is the one that really like
his editing. But you compared him to Spielberg. I think Spielberg is pretty generic. I compare him to like Wes Anderson, where it's like they both have their thing, they do their thing, they have a very like you watch a clip from a Wes Anderson or a Tarantino movie and you know, oh, that's Tarantino or whatever. He's the edgy version of that. You know what I mean? Where the Wes Anderson is the, version of that, of Tarantino.
Wes Anderson is I don't know, he's like the kid that brings an acoustic guitar to the party.
Oh, he 100% is, and he well knows it. And Tarantino's fucking the internet troll that shows up, and he's just like, well, actually.
Right, that's who I picture, is like the guy who's like, he thinks he's like the life of the party, but then everyone else is kind of like, this guy's kind of like intense and not.
I know, but it's like, see, that's the thing. It's like this made me want to go rewatch a lot of his movies because I haven't seen a lot of them in a long time. Like his middle of his career, like it's been the same amount of time since I watched Jackie Brown. I've only seen Kill Bill once, which you've said many times is your ultimate.
Which is so wild. It's hard to pick. Kill Bill would be my favorite Quentin Tarantino, but Hateful Eight is probably second. So
Hateful Eight is probably my favorite just because it ticks so many of my boxes. But I think Inglourious is probably his best.
And I think Death Proof is his most underrated.
It is pretty good, surprisingly.
I really like Death Proof, but
you need to fucking see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because I actually every time I've only seen it like twice now, but it's great. It's great.
I know. I will get around to seeing it.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway,
I feel weird. I don't know what happened. I just like watching more interviews with him that were more available.
I know, but yeah, I get that. But it's just like I'll never not have a soft spot for because it's like the same with from the same era. He was like one of the golden boys we talked about briefly in Do the Right Thing, where it's like 90s indie cinema came out, and it was like Quentin Tarantino, Kevin Smith, fucking Richard Linklater, Steven Soderbergh, you know what I mean? Spike Lee was before them, but since he was the black guy, he didn't get any credit until later. But
I know.
But, all those guys. But I feel the same about, like, Kevin Smith as I do kind of about Quentin Tarantino, where I'm like, I love his shit and his formative days, and it was so influential. But, like, as a guy, I'm like, I don't know now.
Yeah. Well, no,
the only Linklater is the one that's still just, like, he's the guy at the party that's just like, yeah, man, whatever. Like, you want to just smoke some weed?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he smokes some weed and he'd be like, you want to talk about the stars? Like,
yeah, he's everyone's friend. Like, oh yeah, he's pretty chill and his art's fun, but
yeah.
But I don't know, man. This movie, I love this movie. I saw you only gave it 3 stars,
and I just like, I think
you're letting the QT get to you, man. This movie is fucking. It's dope.
Yeah.
it's dope.
That's the thing. Like I had a fun. I can't look past it. It's like I'm.
Well, I don't think you should.
Every time I'm enthralled with a scene, with like heavy dialogue, and like I like his writing is like so constructive, and I love how like real it is. Like people, it's like he'll use a take that isn't quite perfect, but it's so good. It like builds such realism, and like it builds such like a frenzy, like especially with Mr. Pink. Like he just he's you can tell he's the most neurotic, and because he knows there was a rat the whole time, and Harvey Keitel's trying to just like
I haven't had time to think.
He's in denial. He's in denial because he's has a relationship with Tim Roth, and B, he just doesn't want to believe it. He doesn't want to believe that he was set up. He just thinks it's a robbery gone bad.
Yeah, what is up with that relationship? Like, I like to imagine, because we don't know their characters very well. And that's what's nice about the flashbacks too. It doesn't get too much into their personal lives. It's just like their connections to the organization, with like Joe and everything. But like, you think because he's older, you think he's got like a son somewhere that he's like distant from, that Tim Roth kind of, he's like, their young son. Like I like to feel that in my heart, that it's just like he has an estranged son that's like about that age, and so he takes a little bit more of affinity, because it is like weirdly intimate. They're like, from the get go, he's like, say it, you're gonna be okay, but even later he's like, will you hold me? And then normally I'm like, I'm a hardened gangster, bitch. Like, I know your gut shot. But like, get over it. Get a grip. But also, he's like, yeah, sure, I'll hold you, buddy. He like spoons him, like all that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I love that. He's combing his hair.
I do think like a lot of the flashbacks just show that like they have a camaraderie and a closeness that the other crew members don't. But I feel like there's something else there, and I like that. I want more of these like little threads I can kind of tug on that aren't really there, but like you can kind of insinuate just based from the acting, and like, just the interactions with one another. You know what I mean? I don't know. You could see the kind of guy. I don't know. It's good characterization, so it's like that's why it's like.
And on that topic, I think that the opening scene, I hate the Madonna. I've always hated the Madonna thing, because A, I don't really care about Madonna, and then B, I don't care about Quentin Tarantino's dumb obsession about penises. And it's like, it's so funny because I'm like, it's weird. I'm not like a prude. I'm no,
totally you're a prude.
No, like sex jokes rock, dude. Fucking it can work, but it just was like, it's so, you can tell when Quentin Tarantino has that feedback loop and he gets up his own ass.
I know.
He thinks that he's writing the greatest thing that's ever existed. But what sucks is the scene right after that, when Joe goes to pay and it's the tipping, dude. That is masterclass. That is such a good scene to build every single character. Like that right there, every single character,
even Mr. Blue, who is like completely forgotten about. He's just like, you don't care that these young ladies rely on your tips to survive. And it's like, that says a lot about his character, that I'm like, I wish we would have saw more of him. Like, he dies off camera and he's only in like 2 scenes.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, and it's funny because he got those speaking scenes later. They like they reshot him because it seems kind of awkward, right? Because it like cuts to him, to get him to talk, just because they realized like he's in the movie and he doesn't have any speaking lines, and then they came back later to shoot that. So it's funny, but yeah, dude, I don't know, man.
Well, the whole like pop culture, like that's what made him famous, though, because it's like, I think for its time, I think it feels kind of dated now, the conversation, because again, I don't give a fuck about Madonna either. She's like 60,
right?
And it's like, I never listened to that shit, but nothing against it, but like it's just like that conversation does feel a little masturbatory and like just self-indulgent. But I'm trying to look at it through the lens of like coming out in the early 90s, like it feels like it's indie, it's raw, like people were like, oh man, this is a conversation I could see me and my friend having, because they constantly like, something I picked up more on this rewatch was Mr. Orange is like a comic book nerd, and it's like I never really noticed that, but it's like the pop culture that he becomes famous for.
But he's a cop, but he's the fictionalized like that the romanticized version of a cop. Like when he looks in the mirror and he's like, "You're Beretta." Like that's so funny. Like it's so cool. And then like later he's like super vulnerable. It's like, it's great, man. So it's like that. That's the thing. Like I do like this movie. I mean, it's like 3 stars. I feel like is a decent like rating. Just even outside of personal taste on like anything that racist, even though like sometimes that would happen, it would kind of jar me, but even besides that, it's just like I think the movie is a really nice debut. Like it's super strong. It totally shows like what he's capable of, and I do feel like Pulp Fiction is like quote unquote better, even though I think I like Reservoir Dogs more.
Yeah, I think I like I agree with that sentiment. I like Reservoir Dogs more, I think, but
yeah,
it's like because it's
so
simple.
And,
it's simple and it's straightforward. Everything, there's like the only fat is in the dialogue, and even then, it's just like it's character building. And again, honestly, I know we're not wanting to harp on it too much, but I think what would have saved the whole like everyone being a racist thing is if they just made Mr. White not racist. If they made him like say one thing, because it never bothered me with Mr. Pink because it seems so in line with his character. And it seems in line with all the other fucking douchebags.
Mr. Blind, nice guy, Mr. Blonde, and nice guy,
But
Eddie
it's
and Joe.
it's trying to get you to empathize with Mr. White as like this like father figure. He's the one that's trying to be like the level head guy. So every time when he was telling the story in the car, I was like, yeah, that was the one scene where I'm like, nah. That's the only time it bothered me though, because I was like, otherwise I'm like, I thought it was jarring, but I was like, these guys are scumbags, I guess, sure, But I think that would have fixed it, I think, for me a lot. Like, that would have been the only, because I think this movie is a flawed masterpiece. I gave it 4.5 stars. I fucking think this movie's great. This might be one of his best, in my opinion. But, but it is the rawness, because his other movies are better, but like they're refined down to a core. There's something about this that's guerrilla.
I love the run and gun of this. Yeah,
it's definitely, you could, it's almost like the cinematographer, like the camera guy that's got the Steadicam. He can barely just keep up with what's going on sometimes, and it's just dudes yelling at each other in a warehouse most of the time. Well, but he's still just like.
He barely had permits to film outside LA. Like he was, it was guerrilla, dude. This was its independent cinema.
Yeah, that's right. It's like it broke through and it was one of the movies to break, like, this, Clerks, Slacker, like there's a Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Yeah, right, Sundance. Those are the Sundance darlings that I mentioned earlier.
And then it's so wild because it's funny to see Sundance get like cannibalized and just like eat its own tail, because now Sundance only gets really, really strong directors that go anywhere. Like, Sundance doesn't. Sundance is, you have to go through Sundance. If you want.
Every Joe Schmo can't enter Sundance. Like,
no,
it's
not anymore.
Well-known shit or famous other celebrities doing a director, like their directorial debut, but they're already famous as fuck.
That's right. That's like kind of my.
It's like I'm Zac Efron and I want to make a movie and it premieres at Sundance. You know what I mean?
Dude. That is 100%.
That's what it is now.
It's like you get into Sundance, and then it's like Charlie Day makes a Sundance movie, and it's like, okay, but that doesn't count. That's not a Sundance movie. That's you're already a millionaire. You can't make a. But anyway,
while we're talking about the grind and the indie, you got a money minute for me?
And the money. So it was 1.5 million, and that's like a pretty well established solid number, because Harvey Keitel came on and everybody did it for super cheap,
That is cheap.
And then it grossed. I mean, that's indie indie standard. That's it.
That's cheap.
It doesn't get more indie than that, And so it grossed 2.9, but that's like a tentative 2.9 because it went through some weird rough patches, and like I said, it had some weird like release date issues and stuff.
Yeah.
And then this was when home entertainment blew up. So you don't have I'm curious what the real number is on home entertainment and what this did.
I bet it's insane because I've owned this movie physically 3 times.
Yeah.
I owned the like 10th anniversary box set, the one that's the gas can. Remember that one? The case is the gas can. And then I fucking lent that one to someone and lost it. And then I bought the DVD, the like 20th anniversary edition, the like Mr. Yellow on the cover, Mr. Blonde on the cover, and it's like the yellow cover. And then I got the Blu-ray.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember seeing this on VHS too with them like lined up
man.
Colors. And then
I feel like that's where this movie hit. It hit hard in the home video.
No. And it's marketing. So this had a lukewarm like splash in America, but in London, their marketing nailed it. What they did, this was the first movie to do individual posters for the characters. Like,
really? That's perfect.
So smart.
Yeah.
It's so smart marketing to have that like. So basically, now if you see any movie and it's got a character's
poster,
the
character posters.
That's because this like.
And it's perfect for this, like the fact that it's. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like.
Yeah, they're alias, and then like the ties with color and like the splash of color with their silhouettes and shit. It's
great.
Yeah, the marketing on this is really smart, and that's what I mean. This is like, I feel like I'm still attracted to the look of this movie, and I will be for the rest of my life because I love gangster grimy films.
Oh well, it's the iconic. I mean, like I said, it's just cool. It's the black tie, cop and robbers,
the black
fucking.
tie, and then like that deep deep blood, and I just like the buckets of blood. It's like I love it, and
Timrod
I
bleeds
hate it.
so much.
I know it's like, I mean, I love how it's like it's impossible, but I love, Anyways, I love that I lose my train of thought often, and that's
Oh, I love that. That's good radio.
great for the airwaves.
It's good radio.
For the airwaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone out in podcast land loves that.
Yeah, that's good.
Anyways, it's just a vibe. I do enjoy the vibe. Oh, what I love is what I want to say is he does paint a really good picture with having the characters talk about what is going to happen without seeing what happens, and then I still feel like I was there in the heist, even though there's not one scene inside the
No,
diamond room.
I feel like I could see
there's
Mr. Blonde
right.
shooting everyone, and because it's
Uh-huh.
like
I
they're
can
like
see
shook by it.
someone
They're like, this
freaking out.
fucking psychopath.
Yep, dude. I can visualize. It's a scene in my head that I almost think happened. I can't remember if I'm talking about this movie. I'll be like, oh, remember when like Mr. Blonde starts shooting everyone in the room?
Yeah.
Like, that never happened. They never.
No,
they
you never actually
anyone
see
hostage.
that.
Right.
It's like, and that's what's so smart is because it makes it feel bigger because what you do see is like back alleys and shit. Like,
it's
like
yeah,
you see Mr. Pink on kind of a busy street the first time, but it's just like when
Barely, though.
Mr.
Yeah,
Brown crashes the car, it's like fucking some back lot
and
somewhere, you know what I mean?
It's all, and that is
And the sound
that is
design.
solely sound design. That's
Yeah.
solely cinema.
Like-
You like creating that sound design makes it feel like there's 20 cops chasing after them, but yet it's just the two guys standing there.
That's why I love it, man. It's like this, you know, I don't want to read Reservoir Dogs the book. Fuck that. You know what I mean? It's like it only works this way.
Yeah. Right.
That's all it works. Like even Reservoir Dogs the comic would be cool, but it's not the same, man. But like, I wish there was more. I'm glad I didn't, but it left me wanting more because I'm like, give me a Mr. Pink backstory. I want to see more Mr. Blue. Hell, I even want to see, unfortunately, more Mr. Brown with his fucking soul patch. Like, Mr. Shit.
No, dude, and
Joe was awesome.
Well, actually, and that's a whole. I don't know if I was talking with Travis, text messaging, and he told me that Lawrence Tierney, like, there was like a big blowout on set. Do you know about this? You ever hear about this? I don't think he mentioned it in his call today, but I'll give a little rundown in case he doesn't. But dude, Lawrence Tierney, he was only on set for like 3 days, and then they like got his stuff in like a week, and he got fired through half of it because like he just wasn't. I don't know if he had something wrong or if he just was like kind of just like an old asshole. That
He
was, like,
just
not
is that
cooperating.
character. Like,
or just like I think really what it was is Quentin Tarantino is a young buck, you know. He was like his directorial debut.
doesn't
and
like
has a little
taking
out.
directions.
And exactly, and this dude is like, well, fuck you, I don't care about you. I've done movies forever, and you know what
Wait.
you don't have to do. So I think they had a tiff.
They
had a big
probably that makes sense. It's like
Yeah.
the scene when they're like planning the heist. He's like, we sat around, we were making jokes. And I felt like the scene where he's like, I'll move on when I'm ready to move on. It's like they had to write something in to like go with that. They're like, all right, say something. But really, he's talking to Quentin Tarantino. He's like, can we move on? He's like, I'll move on when I'm ready to move on. He's like, fuck, all right, okay. Steve Buscemi, you got to say this thing so I can cut it in.
No, dude, you were not off.
That's what it feels like, right? Because he even is like,
some stuff on YouTube,
ooh,
and it
he
was
seems
like,
genuine.
yeah,
He's not. He does not seem like he's acting. He's just like, can we fucking get on with it? It's hot in here. It's hot. I'm done.
really though, yeah, really.
Anyway, I got a couple Reddits. You ready?
Let's hear 'em.
All right. So, Clones for People 2 says, this film is just so fucking cool and just so much fun to watch. Full of iconic scenes, snappy dialogue, and a perfectly put together soundtrack. I've seen it a lot of times, maybe 10 times, and it's enjoyable every time. I first watched it years ago, and I watched Pulp Fiction around the same time, and I love Pulp Fiction so much, I brushed this one off a bit. But over the years, it has grown on me more. Tarantino really has a flair for style, and I recommend watching some French New Wave to see where he was clearly influenced, particularly Breathless, 1969. Ranking this against his... Yeah, that's Tarantino all the way. Ranking this against his other films, I think it falls right in the middle for me, but that speaks more to the strength of his other work rather than the weakness to this. I think this is perhaps the best film by any director in recent history. Best directorial... First film by... That's me, not him butchering it. Any director in recent history. Citizen Kane of our time.
Okay.
I think so. It was super influential. I think this is better.
You don't know what's cute? I don't know if clones are people too out there. Hello, I'm talking to you. I don't know if you know this, but his production company, Band Apart, is Breathless is like a band apart. Like it's like there's a correlation there where like it's, or maybe it's through Truffaut and he had like a band apart or something. Anyways, that tracks like 100% within the.
I've never
within
seen it
the
because I'm a as we've said before, I don't
Now
really watch movies. I just read the Wikipedia pages. I'm a poser.
Yeah,
I've never seen it.
After film school, I just never watched a movie again.
Well,
Just,
it
that's all I
didn't
ever-
really
No,
click
really
with me, the Tarantino thing, like him stealing older films, because it's like, obviously Tarantino is like from our early childhood, so it's like that does feel older. We didn't start watching older-ass movies until a little bit later in life, so I'd seen Tarantino first, but it didn't really click with me till we watched Lady Snowblood, like a couple years ago for the podcast, and I was like, oh, this is Kill Bill.
It is Godard. So Godard made a movie called Band of Outsiders. And it's called like Band Apart. So it's Band Apart, and that's Quentin Tarantino's production company, Band Apart, because of Band of Outsiders by Godard. So you nailed it on the head, and that totally is. And that's what I was saying earlier. Quentin Tarantino, he knows his film history, and he shows it with loving care, and that's what I appreciate. I mean, that is. We've talked about this before, and I'll say it again. Kill Bill is the movie I would show somebody who's never seen a movie. If like you're like, oh, what's a movie that kind of encompasses film? I feel like Kill Bill falls snugly in that.
Yeah, as we said.
Anyways,
I talked about that briefly. Yeah, and when we were doing next month's movie, 70s movies.
Nice.
So Turbo 13, I actually haven't read his yet, so hopefully it's not true. Turbo 13 says. He's like, I really loved all the racist stuff. I'm just kidding. He says, pretty solid movie. I give it more props for being QT's first movie, which is pretty crazy. I love the tension and the guessing on who the cop was. I wanted it to be Eddie so bad. Haha. All in all, I would have given it a 3.9 out of 5 because I wouldn't catch myself watching it again, but can't really say anything negative about it. Thumbs up. I know he was saying that to me about Eddie, and I was like, you know what? Eddie does seem like he would be the rat. Like, you do kind of think that's gonna. He's almost like
kind of flipping on his dad, or like.
On the way it shows him, and he's like, "I'm going to the place, and I haven't talked to blah blah blah." You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you could see it, but it's like hard to differentiate myself knowing how it's Mr. Orange. You know?
I know, dude. Yeah, that's the whole thing. I'm like watching this again for the first time. I'm kind of like, oh man, that's it. It would be exciting to see this again but I mean, I don't know though. I feel like. It's kind of hard. I'm glad that you liked it, Gat. I don't know. I can't think of an example of like.
I want to watch
like this that I haven't seen before. I don't know. Yeah, it's probably like an old '70s movie or something I haven't seen. Like maybe like French Connection. We watched that. It's like I don't.
Yeah, if we watch that next week, it's close. We'll see. I don't know what we're watching next week yet.
I know, right? The time will tell. Do you wanna throw on Travis's?
I was smart and I pulled it up while you were talking. So boom, I'm ready to go, baby.
Let's do it.
All right, here it goes.
Listen to him.
Oh, just kidding. I forgot it has to take me to a different page. There we go.
Thinking of a new intro instead of "Hey guys," but haven't found one I like yet. So if you know of anything, any suggestions, let me know. Before this week's viewing of Reservoir Dogs, it's been probably 29 years since I last saw it. When Pulp Fiction came out, all my friends who were into movies would talk constantly about it in Tarantino. All I remembered from this movie was their iconic matching suits. I somehow forgot that ear scene until moments before it happened, which is surprising given how much of a shock that scene was. What I liked about this movie was the dialogue, minus all the racist stuff. I realize it's there for a reason in portraying a realistic view of the type of criminals that they were, but it was a bit much. Tarantino's movies usually have great realistic dialogue, and this one starts that tradition. Because the majority of the movie takes place inside the warehouse, it got me reminiscing of 12 Angry Men that takes place almost entirely in a jury room. Besides the opening scene at the diner and the next scene where Mr. White is driving a dying Mr. Orange to the meetup spot, the rest of the movie takes place at the warehouse, only to leave for flashbacks. Even the jewel heist gone wrong isn't shown. So my question for you two is, do you think it would have been possible to make Reservoir Dogs using the 12 Angry Men model and having it all take place inside the warehouse. Or for the story, having it shot before the heist and after the heist, but all at one location. Could Tarantino or Lumet have pulled it off? Thanks.
Thanks, Travis. You hit all our points. I want to hear more about what it was like to see it back then. You're the guy I was asking for.
You're the guy. And that's funny because I mean, you are like you're in that sweet spot where you're like just a little bit. You're like
I say older, but I like Gen Xers. You know what I mean? It's like
right. Yeah, you're like just older than us enough that like you were there.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you for yes.
I want you from now on instead of hey guys, I want you to just go yo 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 yo.
Oh yeah, that's your contender, huh?
Or hey fellers, and like wag your arms around.
I know, yeah. I want you to come in. You need to be like a motivational poster or something. You need to come in every day. You have a question every week. Where I want like a fact from you. I want you to be like, giraffes only sleep 30 minutes a day or something. I need something like.
Just start with, did you know? You know, like
yeah, right, yeah, yeah.
I like that. I like the hey guys, whatever you want to do.
Hey guys, I'm surprised that you wanted to change it up because I've become.
It's your catchphrase.
It lulls me, dude.
It does.
Like when I had to
gets me in the mood.
That's how I had to like, hey guys. Like,
that's true.
I love the hey guys. Keep it Travis classic, baby.
Yeah. To answer your question, I think this movie would be great as like a play or something if you did some tweaks.
Totally.
But it would be hard. I do think you could miss out on some of the flashback stuff, but it would hurt to miss on some of the diner stuff because it does feel iconic, and but it could totally work. Like this would be great as just like a play, all in one room. Like just cut everything and just kind of just pack it in because it's already so tight. I'd love to see it. I bet you there's some fucking high school out there that just like it's like we're gonna do it all.
Yeah,
just shoot the whole thing. You know.
Yeah, just every N-word in there. But I think that it would be in the like the lieu of Lumet and being like 12 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men technically was allowed one scene before they went into the room, so you could have that diner scene where they talk about Madonna and tipping, and then just have it all be inside the warehouse
because you don't need.
I feel like it would hold. I think it would hold up.
It would
rewrite it.
I do feel like you would be missing out on some stuff, but that's
like what Hateful Eight is. There's like even though Hateful Eight is just a larger set where it like it. But I mean, and he has like he goes to like flashbacks and like shows like the fictitious stuff. And there's I don't know. There is a lot more. The reveals
are more impactful through cinema. That's why I was like saying earlier, like the cuts really sell it. Like it would be like you get in the dialogue, Mr. Orange being like, "I'm a cop," and the guy being like, "I know, I remember, we met." But it's the fucking cut where he's just holding the gun, bleeding to death, and then it cuts to Mr. Orange. And he's there being like meeting up with his handler, and he's like, "I'm the undercover guy, and I got a job with Joe." And it's like those realizations just hit so much harder. So I feel like with some minor tweaks, because the meat and potatoes of the movie is in the warehouse. So I feel like you could just do that. You know what I mean? And like you're not really losing any information that isn't just character type development. Everything that moves the plot forward happens in the warehouse through dialogue or whatever. You know
exactly.
What I mean?
And I think using this story that's, sensational and violent, and it's a whodunit, which is 12 Angry Men. That's kind of that's usually how these hold together really well. Is there's always that like mystery involved.
I like how much it
that has to like deliberate.
Right. Well, it's like the reveal comes like almost a little over halfway through the movie, but it's just like there's so much to his, and then there's like the tension of like that, and then I love the ending, the climax is so fucking good, because even Joe just comes in, he's like, "I know who the rat is. It's him. I should get my fucking head checked for not going when I was not 100% about a guy." And
that's what's so great too is it's like it's not 100%, and so Harvey Keitel that roots Harvey Keitel in taking Mr. Orange's side immediately. Like it's even more like the whole time he's been on his side, and then the second that Joe's like, "It's my gut," he's like that doesn't count. I don't respect that. I don't.
That's
want
not
that.
logic, man. Like, but he's right.
Yeah. But he was right.
And that's the thing, and that's why it's so fucking devastating when he's just like, because it's like they've had the relationship where it's like Harvey Keitel, Mr. White, saved his life. That it's like he shouldn't have said anything, but he had to because out of respect. He's like I'm a cop, and then he's just like,
and
just
so
like,
he does he shoot him?
I think so.
Been,
he has to.
That's always been a thing.
Yeah.
That I'm like, did Mr. Pink die?
He got away in my head canon.
Yeah, my head canon, he definitely got away because there was a lot of gunfire, and I think it was a lot of gunfire that sounded back and forth.
He blasted his way out just like he did the first time.
Exactly. And then I'm also like, did Mr. White shoot him? I don't know, but I assume he did because that's the reason the cop shot him. But anyways,
yeah,
I like that. I like that it's. That it will be.
He had to because it was principle. He knew he's about to die, but he's just like, he said it from the beginning where he's like, did you kill anyone? Just a couple cops. So no real people, right? Yeah, no real people. And so it's just like the whole time he threw away his whole life. He killed this man he respected and is known forever, and he was wrong, and he just can't handle it. He might as well have been pulling the trigger on his fucking self because he knew. But it's just like, He has to, you know. But there's still love to it. That's what I'm saying. It's weird because he's like cradling his head. He's cradling his head and everything. There's still like this weird intimacy between the two of them that it's just I have to kill you out of principle, but also like I love you and damn you for making me do this.
In my notes, I wrote fucking that's in Till Blood Do Us Part, baby. That's the whole ending, man.
I know.
We homage this movie in our movie, so
we
it's
did.
like.
It's pretty overt. I swear to God, there's a take, though, where it's just, like, so much more. Where he's just like, are you a doctor? Just, like, the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I know. Me too. I swear. I thought that
there
take
is.
was, like, 5 minutes longer.
I don't think we put it in the final movie, but we did do a thing where we did, like, the whole thing.
Okay. That's okay.
And we definitely did film a bit where it was just, like,
say
the goddamn words. You're going to be okay. Like,
yeah, right. We did the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah. Well, because Chet wasn't having it. Anyway. Chet was just like, whatever, just quit touching me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's Reservoir Dogs. Hey, I don't have anything else to say. We're there.
Me too. I mean, I felt happy about everything you said.
Thank you for listening. You're just gonna have to go watch it and decide for yourself how you feel on the QT. I'm sure we've only watched 2 Tarantino movies. It still blows my mind that like his most popular movie, I mean, I would say used to be Pulp Fiction, but now it's like definitely Django. Talk to any average person, Django is what they've seen.
Yeah. Django,
which is, I mean, it's weird, but it's like that's bottom half. I mean, I like Django quite enough. All his movies are good. That's the thing. He's never made a bad movie, so.
No, I agree.
So anyway, I don't know what we're doing next week because right now the poll is tied. We're doing like 70s movies is what we landed on, which it sounds fun because there's a lot of 70s absolute classics that I've never seen. That I'm wanting to, and I'm feeling that era for some reason. So it's either going to be Network or the French Connection. We don't know, or maybe something will sneak in there. I don't know. Maybe Godfather Part 2.
What do we do if we have a tie? I don't think we ever had a tie.
I don't know. Maybe we just watch both, or we just decide.
I kind of like watching both.
We might. I would watch them. I'd watch them if we had the time, because you still got to go watch Oppenheimer. So
I have plenty of time. I'm back in town.
You're back.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, thanks for listening. Go to the Reddit. We're back on there. We're doing some stuff. Patreon, check that out. We're doing more bonus episodes. We're gonna do an Oppenheimer episode soon. We're gonna have to put that back a week because out of town and everything. But
yeah, right.
But no, we're gonna definitely talk about that and stuff. So yeah,
I'm at you. Check out that Patreon feed, baby, because it is it's stacking. We're getting hours put on there, man. We got content.
I can still hear you.
And I lost him.
You're good.
You know what? I lost him, and that's a goodbye. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap
on Reservoir Dogs.
All right. Okay.
Good night, everybody.